Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're zooming past the basic everyday mechanics of payroll to look at something much bigger: the strict, structured legal obligations that govern compensation administration in the Philippines. We're going to break down exactly how the law protects workers and ultimately shapes organizational strategy.
Listen to this brilliant quote from Professor D. Leila C. Bahuyan. She states, "Fair compensation is not an expense, it is an investment in people, productivity, and the future." I mean, that perfectly sets a progressive, forward-thinking tone for our analysis today, right? When organizations view payroll strictly as a financial burden, they are completely missing the bigger picture. When you follow the law and pay fairly, you're quite literally investing in the engine of your organization's future success.
Now we're dealing with a massive ecosystem today. It's like a giant puzzle made up of interconnected laws, principles, and best practices. From the foundational labor code all the way to complex benefit matrices and compliance checklists, it can honestly seem a bit overwhelming. But don't worry, we are going to make perfect sense of it all.
To make this highly digestible, we're going to navigate through 5 key pillars: the foundation of fair pay, core labor and wage laws, the mandatory benefits safety net, key principles in practice, and finally, HR compliance and best practices.
First up, the foundation of fair pay.
So, what exactly is this framework? Basically, it's the entire body of laws and government issuances governing how employees are paid and the benefits they receive. But these aren't just bureaucratic hoops you have to jump through. They exist to promote social justice, prevent exploitation, and ensure that a hard day's work actually translates into a sustainable, decent living.
Why does this matter? Well, it's pretty fascinating. This framework actively builds organizational trust. When you protect employee rights, you aren't just dodging government penalties. You are promoting deeply positive labor relations. Fairly compensated employees are more engaged, highly productive, and for sure, much more likely to stick around for the long haul.
Let's move on to Section 2, Core Labor and Wage Laws.
These 5 laws form the absolute bedrock of fair compensation. First, you have the Labor Code, Presidential Decree 442, which sets the baseline for employer-employee relations. Then, RA 6727 handles the minimum wage. After that, there's PD 851 for the beloved 13th month pay, a major cultural staple mandated by December 24th for rank-and-file workers. Add in the Service Incentive Leave Law for 5 days of paid leave and the Equal Pay Act prohibiting gender bias, and you establish a baseline of absolute dignity across the entire workforce. Now, an absolutely crucial detail here about the minimum wage law: it's not just one flat number for the entire country. It's actually designed to adapt geographically. Minimum wages vary by region and sector to match basic pay to the real economic realities of families. You know, the cost of living in Metro Manila is vastly different from a rural province, so regional wage boards adjust the minimum pay to ensure workers can genuinely meet their reasonable needs wherever they are.
All right, Section 3, the mandatory benefits safety net. This is where we look at the non-negotiable benefits that go way beyond the hourly wage. We're looking at a 3-pronged approach to long-term worker security. For the private sector, the Social Security System, or SSS, steps in to cover life events like sickness, maternity, and retirement. Then, expanding across both the private and public sectors, you have the PhilHealth Act, ensuring national access to affordable health care, and the Pag-ibig Fund, which is a fantastic compulsory savings program for housing and calamity loans. Together, they create a comprehensive safety net.
Which brings us to Section 4, Key Principles in Practice.
How does this actually work on the ground? Well, you've got 5 core principles that serve as a sequential checklist for any organization. First, legality. You simply must comply with the laws. Second, equity. Compensation has to be fair based on the actual work and skills, not favoritism. Third, non-discrimination. No biases regarding gender, age, or religion. Fourth, transparency. Employees shouldn't be guessing how their pay is calculated. And fifth, good faith. Mutual trust in how these policies are implemented. Follow these 5, and you're building a rock-solid system.
Finally, Section 5, HR compliance and best practices.
The contrast here is literally night and day. Non-compliance leads to a nightmare scenario: severe fines, back wages, exhausting legal disputes, and massive reputational damage. On the flip side, strict compliance actively generates value. It builds immense employee trust, boosts morale, creates a powerhouse employer brand, and ensures sustainable operations. So how do HR professionals guarantee those positive outcomes? You can't just set a policy on autopilot. You have to proactively execute best practices.
That means regularly reviewing compensation policies, maintaining impeccably accurate payroll records, conducting internal audits before the government decides to do it for you, constantly communicating with employees, and, crucially, always consulting legal experts when you're in doubt.
Ultimately, the HR department acts as the vigilant guardian of this framework. They have to continuously monitor labor laws because, well, the landscape is always changing. New wage orders drop, new benefit laws pass. HR has to make sure that compensation structures are strictly lawful and fair, but also highly competitive in the market, all while aligning with the company's financial goals.
And that vigilance means keeping tabs on a massive, evolving ecosystem. The framework extends far beyond base pay. We're talking about overtime, night shift, and holiday pay rules. There's the retirement pay law, separation protocols, expanded maternity leave laws, the Solo Parents Welfare Act, safety standards, and even the Data Privacy Act when you're handling sensitive payroll data. It's a massive puzzle, and HR is the one putting it together every single payroll period.
So, what's the big takeaway from all this source material? At the end of the day, strictly adhering to this legal framework is fundamentally about protecting an organization's most valuable asset, its people. These laws, from the Labor Code to SSS, PhilHealth, and Pagabig, aren't obstacles to business. They are the essential guardrails that ensure a workforce is healthy, secure, and motivated, which directly guarantees long-term growth.
I want to leave you with this one critical question to evaluate your own organization. Are your compensation systems merely designed to avoid penalties, or are they truly built to drive organizational sustainability and employee trust? Think about how your company approaches the minimum wage, the 13th month pay, and benefits. It's a subtle mindset shift, but as we've seen today, it makes all the difference in the world. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.